Her final words opened my eyes and made me realize I had lost decades I could never get back. My name is Peter Whitmore. I'm 73. I was married to Susan for 41 years. And weeks before she died, lying in a quiet hospice room, she said something softly that I didn't understand at first. Peter, we wasted so much time being right instead of being close. At the moment I nodded. I squeezed her hand. I thought I understood. But it wasn't until later that those words truly opened my eyes and showed me how many decades had slipped through my hands without me noticing. For most of our marriage, people thought we were doing well. When they asked about us, they heard about home repairs, steady paychecks, routines that worked, a marriage that didn't make headlines. We were faithful, reliable, comfortable. People called that a good marriage. I believed them. I believed that being present meant being there, in the same house, paying the bills, showing up for dinner, sitting in waiting rooms, fixing what needed to be fixed. What I didn't understand was that being there is not the same as being with someone. That difference lives in the small moments, the invitations that seem inconvenient, the desires that don't fit neatly into schedules, the quiet bids for closeness that are easy to postpone. I postponed them often. I didn't see it as neglect. I saw it as being sensible. Susan loved pottery. She mentioned it casually the first time, her eyes bright as she talked about a studio she'd visited once with a friend. "I'd like to try the wheel," she said. I remember my response because I always had one ready. "We don't need more hobbies." Or, "That's expensive." Or my favorite answer, "Maybe later." Each later stacked on the last until the idea itself seemed childish, like something meant for a younger version of her. Eventually she stopped bringing it up. Instead, she started going with friends. She would come home smiling in a way that told me something had been filled that I hadn't noticed was missing. She wanted to dance more, not ballroom dancing. Just small things. Slowing down together in the kitchen, taking my hand at weddings, stepping closer in the grocery aisle, and staying there for a moment longer than necessary. On our honeymoon, there's a photo of her laughing with her eyes half closed. We kept it in the top drawer. I would look at it and say, "Remember that?" But I never let the remembering change anything. For me, those moments became memories to admire. For her, they were invitations. I smiled, nodded, and explained why tonight wasn't the night. She talked about Scotland the way people talk about something they carry quietly for years. Her grandmother's stories, the songs she used to hum. "One day," Susan would say, "we should go." And I could always find a reason to delay it. Work was busy. Money could be managed better. Travel would be tiring. I folded the brochures and tucked them into the same drawer as the wedding photo, like souvenirs from a life we never quite stepped into. None of this felt dramatic at the time. There were no big arguments, no explosions. That was the danger. The neglect was subtle. A slow erosion. 100 small refusals disguised as responsibility. I was choosing to be right. About budgets, timing, practicality, instead of choosing to be close. Then came the diagnosis. The word entered our kitchen like it belonged to someone else. Pancreatic cancer. We were told it was serious. 4 months later, she was gone. I won't dramatize what she endured. What matters is that when time collapses like that, all your rationalizations evaporate. In hospice, there is no later. There is no rescheduling. There is only what is left. I sat by her bed more than I ever sat still in our marriage. The room had that late afternoon light. Machines whispered. Nurses came and went. Outside, the world continued. Cars passing, people living as if none of this mattered. Inside, the air smelled faintly of antiseptic and lavender. Susan's hand felt warm and fragile, and suddenly I understood how much I had taken presence for granted. That's when she said it. "Peter, we wasted so much time being right instead of being close." At first I reacted badly, not out loud, but inside. I became defensive. I thought of the pipes I'd fixed, the nights I worked late, the stability I believed I had provided. I wanted to list evidence, to prove I had cared. But she wasn't asking for proof. She wasn't accusing me. She was naming something she had lived with quietly for years. After she died, 4 months after that diagnosis, I was left with photographs, familiar objects, and a small wooden nightstand beside her hospice bed. One afternoon, when grief felt oddly still, I opened the top drawer and found her journal. There was no dramatic confession inside, no anger written in red ink. What I found instead were pages of ordinary loneliness, small, careful sentences. The journal wasn't an indictment. It was a map of an interior life I had assumed matched mine. She wrote about the pottery studio, about the way the clay smelled, about the laughter of older women who didn't apologize for wanting things. She wrote about a text from a friend. "We went to pottery night. You should come next time." And beneath it she wrote. I smiled so I wouldn't bother him. There were notes about Scotland, not long entries, just place names, songs, hills she wanted to stand on. Reading it, I understood something brutal. I hadn't lost her only at the end. I had been losing her slowly, for decades. I had lived in the same rooms as her while my attention lived somewhere else. I was efficient, practical, dependable, qualities that look admirable in a biography. But they weren't the things that filled her nights. When invitations are declined often enough, people stop offering them. She stopped asking. And when illness took away her time, there were no invitations left to accept. The journal didn't punish me. It explained me. It changed the rest of my life. Not because it fixed the past, but because it showed me the cost of postponement. The decades I lost weren't marked by disasters. They were lost quietly, through comfort, caution, and the belief that there would always be more time. So here's what I learned. What I wish someone had told me earlier. Ask better questions and then listen without preparing a rebuttal. Trade being correct for being curious. When someone says they want something, don't immediately analyze the cost. Ask what draws them to it. Let their answer breathe. Say yes more often than you say later. Later is a cowardly word. If you can't say yes today, set a date. Shrink the plan. Protect 1 hour. Move something from thought into action. Make a list of small things only your partner would want. Not grand gestures, specific desires. Then pick one and do it this month. Understand that presence is a verb. It's something you practice. Show up willing to be wrong if it brings you closer. And forgive your past self enough to act now. Regret should be a teacher, not a prison. I won't pretend these lessons erase loss. A dance in the kitchen won't recover decades, but small actions accumulate. They always have. That's how intimacy fades. And that's how it grows. Her final words opened my eyes. I can't recover the decades I lost, but maybe you can protect yours. If something in this story landed with you, don't turn it into shame. Use it as fuel. Call someone you love. Ask them a question you've never asked. Say yes to one small thing this week. Later is a fragile currency. Spend less of it.